again. I was feeling better. I put the little suit on. I did the news.
So that's Under the Desk News. Go follow them if you're not. They do daily videos explaining some of the more prominent stuff that's come up that you may not have heard of in the news. In this case, they have 3 items, and I've made some notes here. The first one is that the Supreme Court is debating over how bribery is okay and in what form bribery should be okay, which is really ridiculous. We're now bringing bribery back on the table as a legal thing. They're trying to make it like okay. And their question is bribery okay after somebody does something and gets paid, or is the bribery where you make a bribe to someone prior, is that okay? And it's just, this country's so corrupt as it is, this is the last thing we need. And I can't help but think that the Supreme Court upholding this bribery portion somehow is tied to Trump in some shape or fashion, right? Like, only the Supreme Court he handpicked would be trying to make bribery an okay thing. So moving on, the next portion that they talk about is some protests have been made illegal in states to the capacity of, I guess not illegal, but essentially if you organize a protest, and I wasn't clear on what states, I'm still looking into that, but if you organize a protest, you get your permit and stuff, and let's say you're going for pro-transgender rights, and then a right-wing group shows up and gets violent and starts trashing stuff, you as the organizer would be responsible for what that right-wing group did. Even though they weren't invited, even though they were not part of your group, you're responsible for their actions, therefore would be fined for all the things they did and potentially arrested for it, which is ridiculous. So I can't imagine that much thought was put into this, because if that's the case, then in my opinion, somebody like Trump would have to be held accountable retroactively, which I know won't happen, for what happened on January 6th, but we're not going to see that. So this is targeted at BLM, this is targeted at LGBTQ plus rallies. That's what this is. They can mask it however they want, make it as they want, but I guarantee you the enforcement rate against people of color and the enforcement rate against LGBTQ groups is going to be much higher than it will be against these Gravy Seals types groups that are doing things where somebody else shows up against their protest. This is going to be problematic. Again, I'm not sure which state it is. Let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, so looking into that, this would take effect in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. So, keep an eye on those types of things. I got this from Vox, and there's a couple other news outlets that have listed the states. Some are not listing the states. They're just saying, hey, this is going to be a thing. Apparently, the Supreme Court will not hear Mckesson versus Doe. The decision not to hear that case leaves in place a lower court decision that effectively eliminated the right to organize a mass protest in the states of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. So they're killing people's right to protest in those states. Now, I know Louisiana and Mississippi have their own issues, but Texas in particular really does not need this right now. Texas is going through a lot of things. They need people to have the right to protest. But again, this is going to be unevenly applied. I guarantee you. I guarantee you the well-armed wannabe militia groups that are going to protest are going to have no problem, not going to be harassed at all. But again, BLM, LGBTQ+, are going to have lots of problems with this. And then lastly, what they touch on is that the Supreme Court has upheld Idaho's ban on transgender youth care, which is just awful in itself. I swear there's not one state I can turn to anymore, really. There's a few, but very few, and it's dwindling, where transgender youth can't get care that they need, any form of care that they need. Essentially now, if a doctor provides transgender youth care within Idaho, they can be charged with a felony. As I understand and read around, there's a reporting system coming into place, so we're getting that nice little tattletale system in place to basically keep people marginalized. Look, if this was a doctor that was performing surgeries that was mutilating people and those people weren't asking for that, then I'd be all for a tattletale system, right? But when it's people who are seeking actual care that they need, want, and deserve, and you're doing this is just awful. You're allowing, really awful people to put other people in danger for the sake of their religious beliefs. And this is getting really ridiculous. So I can't believe this is happening. As they state in that video, the American people are tired, and we are, because the reality is everybody that's pushing for this horrible, horrible crap that's happening, it's not the majority of people. It's the vocal minority, and it's a select few people that hold money is what it is. This is not the majority of the American people. The majority of American people are not being listened to, because the average American has no problem with LGBTQ plus or people of color. The average American doesn't. It is these smaller groups, these small pocket groups that somehow seem to think that this country is theirs when it is not. So anyway, feel free to leave comments, you guys. I will be actively watching comments on videos like these. I always do. So anything really negative, racist, or whatnot will be removed. Most likely the filter's going to catch before you even get a chance. But yeah, I don't want to see that in here. If you got those problems, you need to go get help. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this? And are you affected by any of these things in the states where these are at or elsewhere?